In this episode, you'll learn how to surrender what no longer serves without losing your sense of self. Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping entrepreneurs be free from anxiety, stress, and tension through balancing emotions and consciousness expansion. 3 things you'll discover today. Why letting go feels like death to the ego. How to differentiate surrender from self-abandonment. And what to do when you're scared to release control. Okay, why letting go feels like death to the ego seems to thrive off of obsession with itself. But when in your life does the ego thriving no longer serve you, right? Because that's what we're surrendering. We're surrendering the life of self-identification. And all simultaneously, we're maintaining a sense of self. So the nature of this unraveling is it's kind of like you look at the plants and you can see as summer's coming to an end where certain plants need to start to be trimmed back, pruned, right? The essence of life is that you're born, you're youthful, and you grow, and you begin to decay, and then you're dead. That's how plants work too. But in this lifetime, can you surrender the ego so that something realer can operate through you whilst you're on this planet? And that's really what we're looking at. Because as you let go of your self-identification, you'll notice an influx of something that is new, that is unnameable. And it's not in any form of having it, but it is in the relationship of letting and learning so that it can move through you. And the death to the ego, that is literally what letting go is. But it's also a freedom. You see, we celebrate birth on earth. Yeah, I'm rhyming. And we do not celebrate death. We have a funeral and people cry and people are sad. But it's time that we almost reverse that. Whereas someone coming into this earth as any form of an adult or someone doing the work, you understand the responsibility on their plate for coming to earth, and you understand what they're going to have to experience and go through to transcend and let go of the ego. Birth is a beautiful thing, but it's also something that I think we need to take more seriously. And especially from the ages of 0 to 7. But on the other end, we have the decay. Humanity, why are we resisting so much? And of course, it's the nature of the sense of self to want to preserve itself, right? It's the nature of the ego, self-preservation. But when you let go, you notice, you observe, and you can see and feel the friction that is created when you live through the limitation of self-centeredness, of me. What's in it for me? Got some cool HTML code for our new campaign for Scale. If you don't know, it's a lead generation agency. And we're starting off serving SEO agencies. Of course, we are going to expand to other niches. But as we're writing the message, we're asking ourselves the question of, well, for the subject line specifically, we're contacting CEOs and CMOs, so decision makers. We're putting ourselves in the shoes of what's in it for me. Now, this is a little bit paradoxical, almost hypocritical. Whereas from a truth-based message, what's in it for me, that mentality is toxic. But from a business message, I understand that not everyone on this world is doing this work at the level that we're doing this work through this program. It is not a program, actually. What we're doing here is not at all the program. What we're doing here is we're creating an environment for learning, okay? I will never call this message a program again. But I think it is hilarious that for business, for the subject line, I'm asking myself and my business partner, all right, well, we got to market this as in what's in it for them. And that's how the external world sometimes works, right? And even, let's say I'm 50 years old and I'm just free, I'm living a great life, I have plenty of leisure. It's not that I'm going to be looking for people to communicate what's in it for me. I'm going to be looking, what's the level of consciousness in which they have contacted me through, right? Like, what have they not said? What have they said? Now, we're veering a little bit. Sometimes it's okay to get playful. I hope you guys, I hope you, the individual, the one person who I'm speaking to right now, as in, I could say you guys, but this message is for you. And if there are multiple people listening, it's still for you. Uh-huh. Do you see what I mean there? That's just a subtle example of, hey, how are we communicating? What are we considering? What are we not considering? Now, yeah, we hit that well. How to differentiate surrender from self-abandonment. I like it. Surrender has a tone of strength, while self-abandonment has a tone of why me, right? Has a tone, an essence, a vibe of, oh man, resistance, headiness, sadness. The surrender is, you go back to the quote, it's not what you say, it's how you deliver the message. The surrender and self-abandonment can feel very similar, but it's the vibration in which it is stated through. The surrender is considering multiple factors. It's holistic. The surrender is seeing, all right, I know I deeply desire for this thing, but me pushing, striving, forcing feels like I'm decaying. So I surrender while still working toward the thing, but without the headache of the attachment to the outcome or the achievement of the thing which I'm putting the effort into. Whereas I would almost say it's not even effort. You get to a point where your life is not just inputs and outputs, but there are fundamentals that are important. There are fundamentals that are foundational. And you surrender to God's laws. You abandon the ridicule of what you cannot control. In other words, God's laws. So the nature of what we need to understand is what is God's laws. In the Bible, you have the 10 Commandments, which are absolutely skewed by many people of lower consciousness. And the beautiful thing about surrender is that you cannot force another to surrender, and you cannot force yourself to surrender. You have to create a place, a space where you full-heartedly admit to the things which you're working toward. You know there's meaning behind what you're driven to do naturally, right? Follow your natural obsessions. All at the same time, you surrender to the identification with the achievement that may come through your natural obsession. Meaning the status, the label, the blue belt, the purple belt. My instructor always said this, and I'm really beginning to feel it now, where I've been doing jujitsu for like I doubt 3 years, probably 2 years. And he said, if you're in this for the belts, you're not going to do it. And I remember being like a two-stripe white belt, being like excited about the blue. Finally get the blue. And halfway through the blue, whatever, quarter way, I don't know how far I'm through the blue. The point is that I do jujitsu because it's fun. I do jujitsu because it's healthy and it's fun. And when I get better, I get better. But the weird part about it is the more I obsess over identifying with the skill of my jujitsu, what level is my jujitsu at, the less joy I find in the game. Now, when I do jujitsu and I just go to have fun and I go to enjoy it, I still pay attention. I'm not talking to people while I'm instructing. I'm not thinking of other things while he's demonstrating a sequence. I'm fully paying attention, but at the same time, I'm like identified with getting better at jujitsu. I go because I love to do it. Do what you do because you love to do it. And there will be things, for example, what I do. Oh, little guy, bud, come over here. I'll pause for a second. Okay. Um, Now, forgive me. My dog wanted to leave the room because someone arrived in the household, and me have no idea what I was just saying. So let's just hop into what to do when you're scared to release control. And you see, if you can even admit and recognize to having a fear around anything, if you can see fear in yourself in relationship to any area of your life, you're already doing something important. Because you don't release control via force. You release control, like let's say you're holding on to something, yeah? You don't force yourself to let go. If you're holding on to something, you first notice that you're holding on, right? And then your hands can open. Then the muscles can loosen. So when you're scared to release control, you have to not jump to a conclusion of ideas of how to release control, but you need to understand, why are you scared? What's the root of the fear? And also, why am I seeking to control this thing? If you can ask those questions, then you'll start to notice that the fear itself is always connected to something else. And if you go back to the first point where letting go feels like death to the ego, it is that connection between the deeper identification with the context of the circumstance, environment, or opportunity, which then creates the fear. And from there, you control. So the example here is that the control is the blossom, that the fear is the branch, and that the self-identification, the attachment to what you can control, is the root. And this is the harder but most freeing part of this work, where you begin to dissolve your identity, meaning that you still do things, you still create, you still show up, but you're not so emotionally hooked. You're not so insecure that you need everything to work out the way that you would prefer. You actually totally learn to let go of your preferences because you see the nature of the dance between preference and expectation and control, in the creation of fear through that entire mechanism. And if you can have less expectations, then you're going to have less attachment. And with that, you'll free up some energy within your being to do this work. This is part of the dynamic, which is, you kind of got to consider that the entire planet is created via atoms, and that something even created the atoms and the ocean, right? The particles of water. You got to get granular within your own being. If you can get granular within your psyche, your energy, your vibration, your worldview, your identity, your beliefs, your actions, your nutrition, your input, the things you don't say, your relationship to the external environments, the external stimulus, the people that you interact with. When you look at your life from that level, everything begins to get a bit more clear. But of course, it takes a commitment to God, a commitment to truth, to free up the energy needed to see the world from the granular level. And this is the problem. In the prior episode I just recorded, we talked a little bit about distraction. If you're totally addicted to distraction, then you don't look within. And if you don't look within, then you can't understand. So you do start with one pillar. Start simple. If I were to give you a simple game plan, I would say look at balance, but understand that balance comes in seasons, and that winter is balanced in itself. It is the decay. Same thing with fall. If we had summer all the time, that would be disgusting. In New England, for example, where in this part of the world, the growth just wants to grow. Like I was removing some vines recently, and it is mind blowing how if you do not prune and take care and trim things, how nature will, the vines will kill those trees. And this is part of like, are the vines bad? No, they're not bad. Maybe they have a certain negative energy, right? They crawl up the trees. They strangle the tree trunk. Then if the vines get all the way up top, then they start dragging the tree down. It's almost like what we've done to lobsters, right? When the lobsters are in the cage and one's crawling out, the other ones drag them down. Humans may even work that way too. I'm sure you felt it in your life, where Alex Ramosi says they clap when you don't need the clapping anymore, right? But when you're doing the thing, when you're building something, now there may be people out there who want to drag you down. The next level of consciousness is not saying that the vines are bad, or that the people that drag you are bad, or that the lobsters that aren't crawling up the wall are bad. But it's a holistic understanding of how can I be the one for this world that inspires the change? How can I inspire the change? And it can only happen through doing the work within your own self. And that's really what we're talking about here. Talking about how you can let go of that identification with me, with the I, with insert your name. And as you do this work, it is rigorous, it is tough. It's like what has happened in my life has been, I'll give you like the breakdown from 18 to 26. 18, confused. 20, little less confused, building stuff, feeling pretty good, but then having confusion. Then like 22, feeling extraordinarily clear, powerful, aligned, still having some confusion in my life. Then from 22 to 26, same thing. Lots of great moments, lots of tough moments, feeling super clear, then having confusion. It's a game of not quitting. It's a game of surrendering to where you are in your life and being as honest as you possibly can with yourself and everyone whom you meet. No one, not me, no one will ever have the answers to your truth, but the fundamentals will be there. You execute on what I speak about here, and I can guarantee you that as you do this work, you will change. You will learn. And from that change, from that learning, I don't know what will happen, but I can guarantee you that you recognize that you're changing and that you start to see the meaning in the change. That's my promise to you. Thank you so much for listening. Share it with someone whom will align with this, who you at least have a little inclination that they may benefit from this. And if you would like to work one-on-one, shoot me an email. We can get you out of bad shape and get you into great shape. All while doing so, we can work on the emotions, your relationships, even your connection in the workplace. Everything to do with your identity, who you see yourself to be, and the limitations that you may be struggling with. I will never be able to do the work for you. I will always be able to listen. And through that listening, you may have that same essence strengthened in yourself. And that's really my offer to you. So share it with a friend. Thank you so much for listening. And let's speak soon. Let's go. Let's go.